Speaking of going forward, let's look at the other side of the ball. That Bama defense going against this Oklahoma offense here on the crossover edition. Locked On Sooners, Locked On.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And once again, thank you for making Locked On Sooners and Locked On Bamas your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in and subscribing to the shows. You all made us the number one sports podcast network in the world, period. We're the best. So let's talk other side of the ball. Oklahoma's offense is a very fascinating study out there. It looked kind of solid going forward, much better than last year in comparison. And then, you had a drop off due to some injuries and weird things that happened. Voodoo, I don't know what it was. It was probably the tortilla presser's fault over there at Chipotle. But then you're going to come back up and you start to see a little bit more of a progression here, especially in that Tennessee game. John, how are you feeling about this Oklahoma offense going up against Bama defense?
To me, it comes down to one thing. Will Ben Arbuckle be willing to just run the ball and run it and run it and run it again? And when he's not sure what to do, just run the ball. Because that's been the best part of Oklahoma's offense since the South Carolina game. They had a 100-yard rusher in Torrey Blaylock in that win. And then over the last two games against Ole Miss and against Tennessee, Xavier Robinson has been the 100-yard rusher. He had a great day against Alabama last year, running for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, being the catalyst for that upset win on the offensive side of the ball. Lean into that. He posted on social media, "I'm ready." Simple as that. Lean into Xavier Robinson as the focal point of your offense. I know John Mateer was the big transfer portal addition, the big splash, the big money get. I know that everybody wants John Mateer to be the guy. He doesn't have to be the guy. Just go win football games. And the best path to victory for Oklahoma to win this football game is to run the dang ball. Keep Ty Simpson in the offense on the sideline. Go after an Alabama defense that doesn't stop the run very well and can be had. Just run the ball. Feed X, because X going to give it to you.
Yeah, Jimmy, I know with this Alabama defense, you may not have a Jahai Campbell there like you're used to having out there, but that secondary has been pretty ridiculous this year. I've seen the true freshman, Dijon Lee, take the starting job from a Damani Jackson, a player of Damani Jackson's caliber. He walked in there and took his locker and said, "Nope, that's mine." He took his lunch and said, "I'm going to take this starting spot." And he's been good at 6'5"-ish. It's a ridiculously huge corner as a true freshman playing. So I know the secondary is the strongest. I know the front seven isn't the standard that Bama is used to, but you still got some dudes out there. What are we seeing with this Bama defense?
Yeah, they're pretty good. Obviously, they got off to a really rough start against Florida State, but since that time, I think they've built a resume that now stands up against anybody in the league except perhaps Oklahoma. Again, like I said, I think these are the two best defenses in the league. As to Dijon Lee at cornerback, he's been unbelievable. I think the highest compliment you can give a defender at Alabama is he's very reminiscent of Saban defenders. I mean, the Saban freaks that he reloaded the defense with year after year during his 17-year run. Dijon Lee looks like one of those guys. I mean, he's, his length is ridiculous. He beat out a really good player. He hasn't been picked on. Most true freshman corners, the opposing offenses, Arbuckle and those guys, they see a freshman corner and they're like, "Hey, go get that guy." That hasn't really happened at Alabama. And Dijon now, I think he'll be making at least this will probably be his 5th start in a row. Very good player. As far as Alabama's run defense, it's been very odd when you look at the numbers. They're very good snap to snap. They don't give up a lot. But then they give up a chunk play, like 6 run plays in a row. They don't give up anything at all, and they look really good. And then there goes the chunk play. That's what they've given up. No one's gashed Alabama since that Florida State game. No one's gashed them play after play, 5 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards, 6 yards. You don't see that. What you see is 1 yard, 2 yards, 1 yard, 2 yards, 48 yards. You've seen some of that. I won't be surprised at all if Oklahoma busts a couple, whether they're home runs that end in points. We'll see. But I won't be surprised at all to see Oklahoma bust a couple of runs. I'll be a little surprised if Alabama gives up a ton of yards on the ground. Like I said, it will come in chunks, probably 2 plays, probably 3 plays, but it'll add up. And they held LSU to 56 yards last week. LSU doesn't run the ball quite as well as Oklahoma, but y'all seem to be running the ball better lately. Seems to be more of a concerted effort, which leads me to my question for you two guys. I'm fascinated with, I think all Alabama fans are. There's a perception of the Oklahoma offense that it was one thing, and then Mateer hurt his hand, and then once Mateers came back, it's been something else, that it hasn't been the same, or it's been least effective. That's the perception from the outside. Is that how y'all see it from the inside?
Yes. It's been less effective because John Mateer hasn't been as effective as he was prior to the injury.
Yeah, and I'm kind of to add to that. Well, real quick though. I feel like pulling a mask off. I feel like when you see Alabama, you see Oklahoma too. When it comes to the defense giving up big plays, that's kind of like how our defense has played all year. We give up a massive run, and then we play really good defense on the run game outside of that. But yeah, go back to that, Joe.
Yeah, and so and the but is, I think John Mateer realized in that Texas loss, hey, I've got a really good defense on the other side. I don't have to do everything. Mm-hmm. And Ben Arbuckle is realizing we've got a promising run game. I'm not going to say it's good yet, but it's promising and it's developing and it's getting better week over week. We don't have to ask John Mateer to do everything for us. In the Texas game, in the first half, running backs accounted for just 6 carries. John Mateer himself accounted for 25 plays where he either threw a pass, ran the ball, or was sacked. That's imbalance, and that's not complementary football within your offense. So I think Ben Arbuckle is evolving a little bit, not putting everything on John Mateer. John Mateer is evolving himself, realizing, hey, this isn't Washington State. I've got an elite defense on the other side of the ball. Let's just play football. Let's play complementary football. If I don't give it away, and if I get enough points, we can win football games. And that's really all it comes down to. Is it's not about Heisman's. It's not about first team all SEC selections. It's about winning football games. And John Mateer has done a better job managing the football game from the South Carolina game to the Texas game, or not the Texas game, but the Ole Miss game and the Tennessee game. Just missed a few throws at the end of the Ole Miss game, but he hits a few of those throws against Tennessee in the second half, and they win that game. So it's all on the table for Oklahoma. John Mateer just has to play within the confines of the game and not try to do too much.
And to kind of add to that too, Brent Venables mentioned this before the Tennessee game that John Mateer has been dealing with a knee deal. He just said a knee deal. So to me, it seems like it was a knee sprain because going up against it was the Michigan game. He started to look slow up, but the offense kept churning. It was fine. The Auburn game, it looked like it took him a while before he got going, and then he had the final drive to take the lead. That was where I was like, there's something wrong with John Mateer, and I don't know what. But then you had the thumb surgery, which that became the focal point for everybody. But as you mentioned, Jimmy, we kind of did another thing too that a lot of people really didn't pay attention to or realize. We did some more tweaks on the offensive line. So we've been dealing with, of course, injuries to some of our veterans on the line. So they had to put a true freshman out there, Ryan Fodje, on the right tackle spot. And he's a lot meaner than Derek Simmons, who was the starter at the time. He's more of a run blocker rather than a passer. They even had him playing right guard because he's a bigger dude. So they're like, you'd probably be great as a guard. You're SEC guard size and skill set. You're just not ready for the pass pro when it comes to being a tackle. Well, they threw him out there at right tackle. They put in another redshirt freshman, Eddie Pierre-Louis, at guard, and you started seeing some really nasty pulls. You start seeing dudes get ran over, and you're like, oh, you guys actually like to hit people, so let's go ahead and do that. And so that's kind of where you're starting to see the run game evolve more as of the last few games, because those two guys have been really playing more on the line, and the line's getting a little bit healthier across the board. So 2 freshman tackles, which is kind of crazy, a redshirt freshman guard, and you got a junior and a senior, redshirt senior, and the rest of the interior. So that's actually where you're starting to see that improvement. But we have kind of shifted, and as John mentioned, John Mateer himself was, learning that, okay, let me pull back, play in the confines of the offense, and we'll be all right.
It seems like our offensive lines are also in one more similarity. It seems like the offensive lines at both Alabama and Oklahoma, not great, but also not terrible. Fairly good. Alabama's is much better at pass protection than the run blocking. Ty Simpson usually operates from a clean pocket, only gave up 1 sack against LSU last week. I think that's been pretty typical lately. Doesn't get pressured too much. I think Oklahoma just similar in that way. A good offensive line, not great, not terrible.
Consistent. And that's actually the key thing. And as long as your quarterback gets rid of the ball and doesn't run into the back of somebody, probably won't give up a sack or a tackle for loss. Well, we got to get to it. We got I want to talk about key players as well as final predictions here on the crossover edition of Locked On Sooners and Locked On.